Hello! Subreddit Petty Revenge is going to be our subreddit of choice today. There are a lot of good stories out here, so let's get started. Story 1. My neighbor kept blocking my driveway, and now that their lives are a little bit less convenient, here's a bit of a backstory. We bought a house about a year ago. It's down a long driveway, and we sit behind the houses directly on the roadside. The house in front of us has always parked on the roadside, despite having a driveway, and the rear of their cars are always blocking 1 to 3 feet of my drive. It's still enough room to get out of, but it's a pain, and we never made it an issue because they're otherwise good neighbors. Until about 2 months ago. I finished work and came home around 2 a.m. There had been a big storm. One of their trees had fallen onto my drive, so I parked in front of their house, walked down the drive, and figured I'd deal with it in the morning when the weather had cleared. Plus, it's not my tree, so not really my responsibility. I'm woken up from my crying partner telling me the neighbor had just berated her for parking in front of their house, which is their park. It's clearly not, it's a public roadside. I go out to see them. Same situation, nutcase lady starts berating me for parking in their spot. I told her the only reason my truck was there was because there was a tree on my driveway from earlier. She insists on being a childish idiot, so I pretty much walk away. There was nothing to gain from continuing that conversation. I called the local council to see what can be done about them blocking my drive. Turns out it's not only highly illegal to block my drive, but it's illegal to park within 3 feet of my driveway boundary too. Basically, the whole area has to stay clear to allow for big emergency vehicles, etc. But they are not allowed to park within 3 feet of their own drive either. So it basically means a vehicle could not park between our 2 driveways unless it was a moped or something. The council has a 24-hour contractor who issues fines for parking violations. So I call them every couple of days for a few weeks to report them blocking my drive. I always finish work at 2 a.m., which is when I call, so the owners are never awake when the ticket is issued. It also basically makes the ticket impossible to dispute. After maybe 10 fines to 4 different vehicles at $160 each, the ticketing officer and the council got sick of coming out, so they started towing the vehicles. 2 cars towed in 2 days. Now, I have been enjoying my free passage driveway for about a month now, and life's pretty good. And they have to park all their stupid vehicles further down the street and out of my life. Edit. I thought maybe it's worth mentioning my truck was parked in their space for a grand total of around 7 hours when I was woken up. It happened on a Friday, and I didn't actually need to use the truck till Monday night, so I left it there for 4 days just for the hell of it. They definitely knew it was me reporting their vehicles, but it's difficult to argue your case or get sympathy from anyone when you're clearly in the wrong. They never confronted me about it or have said anything to us since. Story 2. You forgot your burrito 10 years ago or so. I was camping with friends outside of Fruita, Colorado. The day after a long night of drinking and bad sleep, I was trying to grab a nap in my tent. A friend of mine thought it would be funny to throw a leftover burrito from previous night's dinner at my tent repeatedly, giggling every time I cursed him for doing it. Finally, I had to give up on the nap and go the hair of the dog route instead. The next day, the trip was over and we all headed home. Cue Petty Revenge. While my friend wasn't looking, I placed said burrito quietly in his glove box. Now, this was the middle of summer. Friend lives in Denver where daytime highs are in the 90s. 2 weeks later, I get a call from a friend who, after cleaning his entire car and looking for dead animals in his engine, finally opened his glove box to foulness I cannot imagine. And the best part is the second he saw it, he knew who put it there and that he deserved the hell out of it. Sometimes revenge is the best dish served hot and fetid. Story 3. Math teacher forgets object permanence and retires. Setting, US, me, 6th grade, math class. I was a painfully shy kid. I'm nearsighted and most teachers noticed it. Being able to see the board equals being engaged in learning. Teachers usually seated me in the front of the classroom and I would do really well, except for this math teacher. My last name is towards the bottom of the alphabet and he would only seat us alphabetically. For context later, he was an older teacher. I ended up in the back of his class. After struggling to see the board, being a non-confrontational child, I wrote him a note on my homework asking to move to the front. I got my homework back at the end of the class with a big red underlined "No, assigned seats only" written on it. I was devastated. I've never been in trouble and didn't think it was that hard to switch me around. This is where the revenge plays out. I love to read. I always have. I always had books with me. After being frustrated by not being able to see the board, I quit trying. I would bring out whatever book I was currently reading and just read during class. Nothing was said at first. One day I was reading in class and it just got quiet, like a sudden drop in temperature. It got quiet enough for me to look up. He was lingering next to me and the whole class was staring. Again, I'm painfully shy. He held his hand out and shouted, "Book." I handed it over, and when class was over, he had me stand in front of the class and say I was sorry for causing a disruption. I was too shy to talk, ended up getting an after-school detention for defiance. I was also late for my next class. I always carried my book separate from my binder so I could read while walking to class. The next day, he took my book right out of my hands while I was walking into class. I got it back, and by the end of the day, I finished that book. The library had 5 copies of the next book in the series. I checked all of them out. The next day, like clockwork, I walked into class with my nose in the book and he took it from me. Once class started and he stopped staring at me, I pulled my next copy out. Eventually, he saw it and he stormed over to my desk. "I didn't tell you that you can have this back. Don't take things off my desk," he yelled. "I didn't," I replied. He turns around. Sure enough, there was a book on his desk and one in his hand. The whole class laughed. The laughter made him even angrier. He walked over to his desk and slammed the book down. I waited for him to stop staring before I pulled out copy number 3. He sees it and repeat. He takes the book out of my hands, the whole class laughs, and he slams it down on the desk. Copy number 4 is where it got interesting. He sees it, storms over, "Get up!" I grab my binder and stand next to my desk where he opens it and doesn't see anything. He slams the top down and tells me to stand in the corner for the rest of the class. He adds book number 4 to the pile and goes back up front. What I didn't know was that the teacher on the other side of the wall called the principal during book number 4's incident and she was on her way down. I open my binder ever so slowly, it was zippered, and take out copy number 5, set my binder down and start reading. He sees me. He is hella mad now. He comes over screaming at me for disrupting his class. He goes to open my desk, rips the top off of it. He throws my textbook on the floor. He sees my binder, opens it, and dumps the contents on the floor, right as the principal is walking in the door. She sees him, the papers, me in the corner, and the broken desk. "What are you doing?" He was shocked. All he could muster was, "She has a book!" before grabbing me and taking the book out of my hands. She ran over to him, got me loose, and took the book back from him. "Are you insane?" He stormed out of the classroom. The principal asked me to come to her office. She called my mom, and I got to go home early. We had a substitute teacher for a few weeks before he announced he was retiring unexpectedly. And yes, I was then moved to the front of the class. I still hate math though. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on that like button and be sure to leave a comment and let us know which subreddits you would like to see a video of, and please subscribe. If you are still in the mood for more Reddit videos, click on one of the videos on the screen right now. They are really good. Trust me.